We have a major Gary Trent Jr. contract update as the price range for his deal has been revealed in a recent report. And with his up and down play, Masai, Ujiri, Bobby Webster have some big decisions to make because as of right now, Gary Trent Jr. is extension eligible. So we'll break down that whole situation, including an update regarding Jontay Porter and his ongoing now legal issues in Canada as that situation continues to get crazier and crazier. But folks, before we dive into it, make sure you guys hit that subscribe button. If you want to stay up to date with daily Toronto Raptors news coverage, we're delivering it here on the Raptors Digest, and things are about to really amp up with the draft and free agency just around the corner. But let's dive into the first topic of discussion. The first thing we're taking a look at is a Gary Trent Jr. contract range being revealed. Now, Gary is a guy that seems to be polarizing now to a lot of Toronto Raptors fans. He came in as a player that looked like he was on the ascent, an elite shooter, obviously, bucket getter, but also impressed on the defensive end early on in his career. Got coined the nickname Starboy. Was a dude that just had a lot of Raptors fans excited. But over his past couple seasons, has not only not taken that leap, he's statistically at least regressed out there on the basketball court. He didn't improve as a playmaker, and frankly, outside of his three-point shooting, which has been solidly consistent in terms of being high percentages, obviously all three-point shooters have their ups and downs over the course of a year, he hasn't really improved as a bucket getter in the lanes or really anywhere out there on the court. So essentially, given his current contract situation, being up a free agent, there's a lot of question marks about whether or not it makes sense for the Toronto Raptors to give a ton of money to Gary Trent Jr., given his lack of insane development and growth. He's still only 25 years old, but he does knock down threes and provide a valuable skill set. But now we do have an update in terms of what this extension could look like for Gary Trent Jr. if he comes in and ends up being brought back and Masai makes that decision. So essentially, Doug Smith has come out and said that Trent, just 25 years old, has proven he has an NBA-needed skill as a three-point shooter, and he's familiar with the franchise, its culture, and where he fits in the bigger picture for Toronto. He may not have had a great 2023-2024 season, but his skills are well documented and proven. His contract requests won't be exorbitant. He was paid about $17 million last season, and any expected pay raise on his new deal will not break the bank. So Gary Trent Jr. signed that two-year guaranteed and then one-year player option a few seasons ago with the Toronto Raptors. That was looked at as a low-money steal for this Raptors team because of what we were projecting Gary Trent Jr. to develop into. Again, he didn't take those leaps, didn't jump up in terms of production, as I mentioned, and ended up accepting the player option on his contract last year with hopes of really improving his performance, stepping up during the season, and frankly, he just didn't really do that. And now, Doug Smith, which is a positive report, I want to say this, because, again, shooters are getting paid crazy money across the NBA, so there was some saying, hey, maybe Gary could be making $20+ million and stuff in a open market kind of contract. So that would be a concerning sort of deal to give to Gary Trent Jr. given his sort of production. I mean, we can pull up his stats, right? Gary Trent Jr., 14 points per game, 2.6 rebounds, 1.57 assists, right? 39% from the three-point line, only shot 38% on corner threes. 90% of his threes were assisted upon, so he's still getting a lot of those buckets, fed to him rather than creating a lot of the shots like a Steph Curry or a Damian Lillard or one of these guys. So, again, over $20 million would have been concerning. Doug Smith is saying that a pay raise won't be a significant increase over what he was previously getting. So that's a positive in that sense, but I've seen a lot of people bring up that they aren't that interested in Gary Trent Jr. even getting what he was receiving in his previous contract. But the Toronto Raptors do have some negotiation leverage because right now, the Toronto Raptors, given the fact Gary Trent Jr. is already on his team, a new rule that was implemented by the NBA is that the current team of the player that they're on can start negotiating contracts. Just before I started recording, Pascal Siakam ended up getting his extension with the Indiana Pacers, a max contract down there. So obviously Gary's not getting a max, but we could give him that extension, could offer him that deal to make things happen. But more details have come out regarding the situation as Doug Smith basically said Trent will, though, have choices. The question is the reason why the Raptors have the advantages I just mentioned. The new rule creates as if Trent takes the money and years offered instead of gambling will be gambling that he'll be worth more on the market. So essentially Smith is acknowledging the fact the Raptors have the advantage in terms of what they can offer Gary, given the fact they can make their offers earlier and make that happen before Gary Trent Jr. enters the open market. And then essentially it will give the Raptors a measure of certainty on one of its major summer jobs that will come rapid order starting next week. There's the first round of the NBA draft a week from Wednesday, and the second round the next day. They have to decide 2 days after the draft whether to pick up Bruce Brown's $23 million team option, and then the free agent market happens on June 30th. So Gary Trent Jr. deciding on what to do. The Raptors, I'm sure, are making a specific offer. We'll see how it goes down, but we'll have a good idea because Gary, frankly, the decision that is made on that front really affects the Bruce Brown situation, potentially guys who we're going to draft, and making sure we don't have a log jam at that two-guard position. Because the Toronto Raptors right now have a few interesting players, we do have on the docket for this team. I mean, Gradey Dick is the real sort of shooter that we have that really could take that leap. Obviously, we have Barrett, Immanuel Quickley brought in at those guard positions. Scottie Barnes has the ball in his hands a ton. And Ochai Agbaji is a guy that I feel like a lot of people are forgetting about in terms of his development, in terms of what he could be able to do for this Raptors team, moving forward, especially on the defensive end. So that's the whole big decisions the Toronto Raptors have to make. And we can also look at other players on the market, what the current shooters are going for. Because, again, three-point shooters, especially 2-3 years ago, were making just insane amounts of bread. But then we look at a contract that was handed out just last offseason for a guy like Grayson Allen, who, again, 13.5 points per game, 4 rebounds, 3 assists. So he's a better playmaker, better facilitator than Gary Trent Jr. And he made 47.3% of his corner threes, shot 46% from behind the three-point line. So was much more efficient as a three-point shooter in comparison to Gary Trent Jr. We can look at his contract, and essentially Grayson Allen's making $15 million, $16 million, $18 million, $19 million. So on average, in terms of annual value, roughly around $17 million per year. So if Gary Trent Jr. is getting a pay raise from his previous contract, that means he's going to be making more than what the open market kind of delivered for Grayson Allen, which seems like a bit of an overpay. So that's something the Raptors fans can kind of look at as a piece to break down and see in terms of whether or not it makes sense to bring back Gary in terms of the other options that could be out there on the market. Because, again, Grayson Allen is an interesting piece, an interesting comparable for Gary Trent Jr. But next thing we're taking a look at is Jontay Porter under criminal investigation amongst the Canadian authorities. Now, the Jontay Porter situation continues to get crazier and crazier. If you're not familiar, basically Jontay Porter was on the Toronto Raptors. He bet against the team and tanked a couple specific games due to getting in debt with some type of mob, and they said, hey, if you want to pay back your debts, go out there, we'll put some prop bets, do some unders, and then you just fake an injury, sign yourself out of the game, and then we end up getting guaranteed money. So that was found out by all the sports books, by all these different betting conglomerates. Jontay Porter was suspended from the NBA, and now he's actually under criminal investigation from the Canadian authorities. As news has come out, Canadian authorities are officially opening a criminal investigation into Jontay Porter, and this is coming from ESPN. So that just, that just sucks for a guy that crazy decision given the contract that he made. It's wild that they banned him and kicked him out. It makes sense, but it's just crazy that this ended up happening. It continues to escalate. So that's the latest updates in regards to Jontay Porter's situation. Just want to briefly mention that there because, again, that story is probably one of the craziest things in Toronto Raptors history. But let me know what you guys think about all this news in the comments down below. You guys best make it as far. Subscribe to the channel. I'm signing out. Cheers.